Right, Nikita Tszyu, mate, the fight week's finally here, I guess. What's the mindset like heading into this fight? Is it any different to previous fights?
This is easily like the most intensity I've had in my mind, the most focus I've had for a fight. Just like when I'm in the hotel room, I'm not necessarily just watching TV shows. I'm kind of studying fighters a little bit more, and I just know how much is on the line, and the stakes of this event, and the stakes that this has for my career and my future. So the best version of myself is coming out.
Did things get a little bit heated up there at the press conference today, or is that you're just sick of talking about this ring walk thing? What was that sort of back and forth all about?
It's getting so boring talking about it. Like, they're being such children. Like, I've honestly said, we've said from the very start, like, we're happy to walk out first, but this is not about us. This is about my promoters. It's their event. It's not up to us. It's not up to the fighters to determine who goes out first. It's not something that we even need to think about. Like, he's making such a big deal about it, and he's honestly, this is kind of good because he's overburning himself thinking about unnecessary stuff. I'm thinking about the fight. I'm thinking about when we get into the ring, not how we get into the ring. Who cares about how we get into the ring? It's about when we get into the ring.
He said that he thinks he might have gotten into your head with all this sort of talk.
He go into my head with this?
That's what he said.
Delusion. Delusion is strong in him.
How's camp been this prep? Did you go back to Thailand for this one, or where'd you sort of base yourself?
Yeah, so I started my camp in Thailand 2 weeks after the Brubaker fight. Tim was still in America, and I did 2 weeks in Thailand, more just conditioning rather than trying to do any kind of skill work. I was working at Tiger Muay Thai and just really preparing the conditioning of the body. 2 weeks there, and then we spent the rest in Sydney.
What did you learn from that Brubaker fight, and then also what did you learn from Tim's fight against Mendoza? Did you pick up any sort of little things Tim does in there that you can sort of implement into your game plan? Or
starting with Tim, Tim controls distance very well, and he knows how to defend himself without overly using up too much energy, if that makes sense. Like, sometimes fighters, to divert a punch, they'd kind of move their whole body out the way. Sometimes they kind of move a little bit, like twice as far as where the punch is coming from. So it only really takes a little movement to divert the punch, and you've brushed it off. And Tim does that very well. Mayweather does that very well. And there's just little things that I was focusing on when I was rewatching Tim's fight, and that I've been trying to implement.
You sort of, when Tim was coming up, I think every journalist asks you how you're feeling. I've noticed every
Tim's fight?
No, every journalist when they're interviewing you asks you how you're feeling. Every fight, it's like.
Fucking annoying.
But when Tim was coming up, every journalist seemed to ask him what advice his dad had given him, and it was to not get hit. So I guess, what advice does Tim give you heading into a fight?
Tells me, smash that fucker's nose. Break that pointy ass nose. First thing that came to mind. No, he's mostly just talking about just being smart and not rushing. Being patient. There's 10 rounds. It's not, again, like 8 rounds to 10 rounds is still a different jump, and there's different pacing involved. So I really prefer, like, this last camp I was doing 12 rounds, 10 rounds in some sparrings, and I'm enjoying the pace of that much more than an 8-rounder, where 8 rounds is a little bit more higher intensity. You kind of there's still a little bit more rushing involved because there's less opportunities, or less, there's, I know where I was going with that.
What about the Australian title? Does that sort of mean anything to you? What would it mean to win that belt?
It has some significance, but it's not really something that I'm really thinking about too much. It's more just the victory over Dylan that's on my mind. I couldn't really care less about the belt itself. It's just more like a stepping stone.
I guess how proud are you to be headlining a second main event this year?
It's a blessing. It's a blessing, and I love doing it in front of the Newcastle people. The energy you feel at that arena, it's nothing like anything I've experienced in other places. Like Sydney's my hometown. I love Sydney, but you guys can't compare to the Newcastle crowd. I'm sorry. Just the energy levels are completely on a different spectrum.
Yeah, because it was against Tim Tszyu, Dennis Hogan that you decided to get back in the ring, right?
Yeah, that wasn't like the main thing that decided. There were a lot of things that kind of changed my decision to jump back into the sport, but it was one of them. Just being able to jump up into the ring and just feel that excitement, feel that craziness of the fans. It was fun.